The city was a whirlwind of creativity. Artists, artisans, poets, musicians, and scholars all worked and prospered well. It was a center of the fashionable and the new, a city of novelties and wonders. But how does one separate art from artifice in a place so giddy with its own inventions? A few souls retreated from the magic city and lost themselves in thought. Niccolo Falario was a gentleman who knew the history of arts and letters. He had a great love for all things antique and curious, and he was also devoted to music. He sat in his library among his collections, passing hour upon pleasant hour. One evening, after much reading and reflecting, he came to believe that the music of ancient times must have been far better than that of the present day. All the other arts are more perfect, he reasoned. The statues of Praxiteles, the temples of Athens and Rome. Consider Homer, Cicero, and Marcus Aurelius. They most surely exceed our own efforts, which are certainly good, for there are no slouches here. But the art of the ancients rings truer and more beautiful. So why would music be the only exception? It's only that we can't hear it, that sublime and fleeting muse. 'Tis a pity I don't live 1,000 years behind the times. To this conclusion every one did not agree. Among these was a friend named Antonio. How can that old, tired stuff possibly be better than our own, Niccolo? We have Vivaldi. And take our instruments, for example. They are as beautiful to the eye as they are to the ear. It takes years to make a Stradivarius, you know, and a lifetime to make it sing sweetly. All this is a great effort to a greater end. Our operas. No ragtag bunch of tired old nymphs and satyrs, throw in Apollo if you like, whistling and rattling bones can hold a candle to our music. Let us drink to Monteverdi, to Corelli, and to Vivaldi. Antonio also loved music, especially the modern operas. To amuse himself, he learned all the popular roles, both male and female. His love duets never failed to turn heads. He hobnobbed with all the shining stars of the musical stage, and often had them as guests when they toured the city. Niccolo sat back and smiled at all Antonio's ranting and raving, then poured a drink for his friend. Don't get me wrong, Antonio. I love our music as well as the next man. But the ancient music was superior, I'm sure of it. Why, it must have been like a holy chorus of angels, with Saint Cecilia directing. Antonio retorted, all catcalls and penny whistles, I tell you. If it was any good, it would have survived. All thumping and twanging and rasping. This argument went on for a long time. Now there were 3 bottles of wine on the table, and all of them empty. Niccolo let out a yawn. Oh, there's one thing we can agree on, my friend. We're getting nowhere. Like 2 old dogs tugging on the same bone. Antonio agreed. Yes, it's late and I should be getting on, but we're not at the end of this. Niccolo escorted him down the stairs. Off with you, old friend. Antonio did not leave immediately. He stepped into the street, turned and cupped his hands around his mouth, and bellowed in his best falsetto voice, Oh, Niccolo! I'll bet you 100 golden ducats that our modern music is best. Up shot the window. And I'll bet you that it isn't, on my honor, on my honor. On his way home, Antonio thought to himself, such a wager is like betting on what the moon is made of, or whether ghosts sleep standing up or lying down, if they sleep at all. It's hard to verify. No winner here. 100 ducats is a great sum, but the prize might as well be the kingdom of Naples, all the tea in China, and all the violins in Cremona as well. Niccolo, meanwhile, blew out the candles and went off to bed. So blinded was he by his own conviction that he did not realize until now what a difficult thing it would be to prove. He pulled the covers over his head and went to sleep with a pensive frown. He woke up in a panic. "One way or another I'll settle this," he snorted. Then he dressed himself and went out into the streets. Niccolo wandered through the street of the merchants. All the shops were dark and forlorn, though above their signs swung merrily enough in the breeze. A silver cup, big enough for bathing, hung over the coffee house. He passed under a giant shoe, then a string of pearls like a rosary of cannonballs, and the enormous golden nose of the perfumery. All beckoned to him, but he hurried on. He crossed one bridge, then another, his footsteps quick and sure. Breathlessly he entered a labyrinth of alleyways and proceeded down a narrow path. The end of one dark passageway turned into a courtyard. Of all the windows above him, one still glowed warmly. He moved towards its corresponding door. The name Gottlieb Fischbacher was written above the knocker. "Just a minute. Who's there? Who is it?" "Why, if it isn't Niccolo Falario. It's been a long time. Dearest Niccolo, you always come with a problem, but you pay the old wizard well. Not sleeping? That's an easy cure. Come on up. Things are a bit shabby. Excuse my present poverty. You know it's forbidden for us good wizards to make any money off of our craft, unless, of course, we are employed in the service of good and honest men, such as yourself. And your kind are a rarity these days. There are a lot of bad wizards, and powerful ones, too. Don't tempt me to cast an evil spell. I'll not join them even if their pockets do jingle with the gold. Oh, I know you're a good man, good as gold. Now I've talked long enough. I humbly offer my services. How may I help you? Look at the fragments in our museums and libraries. They are far superior. Just because we have none of their notations proves nothing. Can the music of the spheres be reduced to mere lines and squiggles? No, I say it can't. It can't be reduced to such a thing. Calm down, my friend. You're not making any sense. Here, have a drink and tell me everything. So Niccolo told him everything. The wizard nodded. He hung on every word and savored every detail. Gottlieb was old, even as wizards go. His hair, though still thick and curly as it flowed about his tattered collar, was as silver as the winter snow. It was evident that once he had been quite majestic. "So that's why I'm here, Gottlieb. You know how to solve a riddle or unveil a mystery, so tell me what you think of it all." "Well, 100 ducats is no small wager. In fact, it's a fortune to me. And though we are both in a perfect agreement as to the wisdom and talents of the ancient, are you sure you want to press on? 'Tis a difficult thing to prove, you know, to take it beyond opinion and into fact. No easy task. Gottlieb, the risk of the money is not the issue. It's a search for the truth. If you can find a way to prove the superiority of the ancients, the prize shall be yours, and by the looks of things you could well use it." A twinkle crossed over Gottlieb's eye. "'Tis a difficult thing to prove, but not impossible, and we are in the right." They huddled together. Words flew out of Gottlieb as the plan formed in his head. "There is not far from this place a small island. No one pays any attention to it, not even other wizards. It is overgrown with weeds taller than a man, but what appears as a nasty mass of thorns and nettles is actually a maze, and I know the secret into its heart. In the hollow of the island's center lie the ruins of an ancient temple, and there we may find something of great importance. Let us gather our things and make haste." It had been a long time since Gottlieb had set out on an adventure, and he bustled around as if he were 20 again. They made their way out of the dark winding alleys and to the water's edge. There they boarded a little boat and set out to sea. The island rose out of the mist like a prickly whale. They beached the boat and started in. Niccolo was pricked and scraped by the sharp thorns. Gottlieb led the way, saying, "Stay close and follow in my footsteps." They entered the dark maze, turning this way and that. Gottlieb knew every twist in the knotted path. They walked and walked, and Niccolo thought to himself, "How strange! The island seems so small, yet we walk on and on." At last the path straightened, and they entered a large clearing at the center of the maze. Before them stood a marble maiden, holding in her hands a lyre. Gottlieb bowed to her, saying, "We come to search for truth. We come to honor those of old whose perfection has been forgotten. If there be any spirit or power to help us, we implore you. Otherwise we leave in peace." The marble shape then seemed to quiver, and its fair limbs to float in motion, and its lips moved. "My name is Euterpe. Shall I play for you?" Gottlieb and Niccolo were enraptured. They stood frozen in time as the music washed over them like warm waves in a sea of golden sound. The muse stepped down from her pedestal and beckoned them to follow her. Then it seemed that all the knotted thickets moved and made for them a straightened path that led out to the sea. Finding all that they had hoped for far surpassed, they took her back to Niccolò's house, where she answered a string of endless questions and played into the night. In the morning Niccolò scratched out a letter and sent it to Antonio. Dear Antonio, greetings. As regarding our wager, I hear from friends that you have dismissed it, thinking there is no way to resolve the matter. Well, think again, my dear Antonio. Rise to this occasion. Find an artist to your liking who plays either the lute or the lyre, and I shall more than match your choice with one who plays in the antique manner. Meet us in 1 week at the Palazzo Orfei, where I will invite all who love music and all who love a contest. Let them be our judges, and don't forget to bring the 100 ducats. Fondly, Niccolò. That old dog won't let go of that rag of an idea. Either he'll present some curiosity that will truly astound us, or he'll make a total fool out of himself. Oh, anyway, who shall I choose? So it was all arranged. The city buzzed with excitement. There was much talk about Niccolò's guest with the strange name, and the famous singer Francesca Violetta was spotted with Antonio at a dressmaker's shop trying on a brilliant gown, and later at a jeweler's shop trying on necklaces. She had come straight from an engagement in Paris. In her arms she carried an odd-shaped box of the deepest blue color with a silver fleur-de-lis as its clasp. Inside was her instrument, a gift from a secret lover. All the shops had closed at midday. Shades were drawn, bakers fanned their last loaves, and everyone had an early dinner or a very late lunch. The Palazzo Orfei had never looked more festive, with flags flying from all the eaves and tapestries waving from under all the balconies. Flanking the doorway were 2 huge oval windows. At sunrise, 2 pedestals had been centered in them, and on 2 velvet pillows the instruments were placed. On the left was Francesca's lute, all fancified of 2-toned marquetry and light as an ostrich egg. Its pregnant shape was like that of a ripe pear. The pegs were turned ivory, and the rosette was a jeweled sunburst surrounding the tiniest portrait, no bigger than a thumbnail, of the current French king. On the right was Euterpe's lyre, of a plain but handsome wood, simply strung, and its shape strong, elegant, and dignified. All day long the crowds came to point and gawk at this display. When the bell struck the 7th hour, these were taken from their pedestals and returned to open arms. The streets swelled with the invited, the curious, and those who longed for admittance. Those lucky invited souls pushed their way into the palace. It was as if all of the Illuminati of the whole city were trying to squeeze into this one room. The far end of the chamber was cleared, and in front of a marble-framed doorway, a carpet was laid. Francesca Violetta made her appearance in a dazzling gown. Her neck was ringed with amethysts, which complemented the jeweled lute. She played beautifully as her fingers scampered across the lute strings with amazing dexterity. All swayed to her tunes, some familiar, some new but equally catchy. Everyone was delighted and applauded her. They declared that it was not possible for another to surpass what they had heard. Then Euterpe moved to the center. Everyone strained for a glimpse of this exotic creature, who dressed in the antique manner and carried a lyre like those only seen on ancient coins and monuments. When she appeared, they all stood in the silence of admiration. She played. All fell under her spell. She moved them with her charm and the infinite depth of her skill. It was as if heaven had come to kiss the earth and sing to it a lullaby. All the divine spirits seemed to join her in one sweet song, like a holy chorus of angels. When the last chords faded from the air and into their memories, the quietness of the chamber was a testimony to her perfection. So she surpassed the other, as the sun in brilliance surpasses a star. A faint jingle broke the spell as Antonio passed a velvet bag containing the 100 gold ducats to Niccolo, who discreetly passed it on to Gottlieb. The room was all smiles and chatter, talk of engagements and interviews. Everyone rode a wave of excitement, everyone except Gottlieb, who sensed that something was not quite as it should be. He looked about the room with a frown. There was present another wizard, a young rival. This wizard rose up, and whether it was for a jest, to annoy Gottlieb, or for a darker purpose, he said to Euterpe, "You have sung so well that it seems to me that we really ought to erect a monument in your honor, which is a custom in this fair city. And since no artist can equal your song, let no artist equal your image." Saying this, he touched her, and she became as she was before, white, cold, and frozen in time. Everyone went wild at the spectacle. Those who were close could not believe their eyes. Those far away thought it was a jest, a magician's trick, part of the evening's entertainment. No one knew what to really make of it. All they knew was that Euterpe was gone, and in her place was left a perfect statue. Had they really heard the heavenly music? Or was it all some conjurer's trick, and they had fallen victim under some dark spell? They still debate it to this day, though there's no way to prove it one way or the other, like arguing over what holds up the vaults of heaven, or how many eyes are spread on a cherubim's wing. When everyone had caught their breath and things settled down, they decided that the statue should stand in the square in front of the art museum and on the top of a murmuring fountain. They weren't sure why, except that she would look very beautiful there. And there she stands to this day, just as they left her, except for one small thing. Once someone came in the night and chiseled these words on the base: "Though music moves this city's heart, magic is the greater art." No one disputed this in a city that from its foundations to its spires seemed like some magnificent apparition, like an arabesque from some wizard's wand.